Okay, so get this. A small Chinese company you've probably never even heard of,
DeepSeek.
right? DeepSeek. Yeah, they just dropped this AI model, DeepSeek R1, and
Supposedly.
yeah, supposedly it's like ChatGPT. But here's the crazy part. It's open source.
Anyone can just mess around with it.
Exactly. And get this, they built it for like nothing.
$5 million.
Shy of a million.
Thank you.
Compared to what OpenAI and those guys are spending,
It's wild. It's like pocket change.
So that's the big question, right? Is this DeepSeek thing a game changer or what? I mean, some people are saying it's a threat.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of fear out there.
Some experts are like, this is amazing open source AI for everyone. And others are like, hold on. Is this some kind of trick?
They think there's a hidden agenda, or DeepSeek's got way more resources than they're letting on.
Yeah, like they're hiding a mountain of GPUs somewhere.
Right, or maybe this is China's master plan to take over the AI world.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yep.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into DeepSeek, figure out what this means for the future of AI.
Should we be excited or terrified, or maybe a little bit of both?
That's what we're here to find out. But before we get into all the drama and conspiracy theories, let's just break it down.
Back to basics.
Yeah, what is this DeepSeek R1 thing? How does it actually compare to something like ChatGPT?
So it's a large language model, just like ChatGPT. You can do all the usual stuff, generate texts, translate languages, write different kinds of creative content. And it's pretty good at answering questions in a comprehensive way.
So basically it does all the things ChatGPT does, but
But it's open source. And it was ridiculously cheap to train.
right, that's the big deal. It's like they're offering this high-performance race car, but anyone can build it in their garage.
You don't need to be a billionaire or work for a tech giant to get your hands on this tech.
You keep saying open source and open weights. I think some of our listeners might be wondering what that means for them, like in practical terms.
Okay, so think of it this way. You want to recreate a famous dish, right? Open source is like having the recipe.
Okay, I'm following.
Open weights are like having all the ingredients already measured out and ready to go.
So you don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. For developers, it means they can jump right into modifying, experimenting, building upon the model.
No need to reinvent the wheel.
And for researchers, it's like having this powerful new tool they can dissect and analyze to figure out how it all works.
So DeepSeek is basically spilling the beans, sharing the secret sauce for a fraction of the usual cost.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I can see why some folks, especially those who've invested billions in their own AI, might be feeling a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I bet there are some executives at Google and Microsoft sweating a little right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a definite sense of disruption here. DeepSeek is claiming they trained R1 for a measly $5 million.
Which makes those hundreds of millions spent by OpenAI and others seem kind of excessive.
To put it mildly.
Okay, but how did they pull this off? What's the secret weapon?
Well, they used a few really clever techniques. One is called chain of thought prompting.
Chain of thought. It's like the AI is thinking out loud or something.
That's a good way to put it. Instead of just spitting out an answer, the AI actually explains its reasoning step by step, like it's showing its work.
Interesting. So it's not just about getting the right answer. It's about understanding how the AI got there.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that in DeepSeek's paper, they have examples where the AI seems to have these aha moments.
Like it realizes it made a mistake.
Yeah, and then it corrects itself. It's almost like watching a student work through a problem, and suddenly that light bulb goes off.
That's pretty wild. But this thinking out loud isn't just for show, right? Does it actually make the AI more accurate?
It does. This self-evaluation actually leads to significant improvements in accuracy. It's not just about being transparent, it's about the AI learning from its own thought process.
So the AI is basically teaching itself how to think better.
You got it.
Okay, that's chain of thought. Another mind-blowing technique they use is reinforcement learning.
Ah, yes, reinforcement learning.
This is like when a baby learns to walk, right? No one's telling them how to do it. They just figure it out through trial and error.
Perfect analogy. DeepSeek R1 wasn't given all the right answers. It learned through trial and error, getting rewarded for correct answers and penalized for wrong ones.
So it's like playing a video game. The AI keeps trying different things until it finds the strategy that gets the highest score.
Exactly. It's a very elegant approach to AI training.
So did this hands-off approach actually work? I mean, did it actually lead to a better AI?
That's the incredible part. DeepSeek's results show that R1 actually outperformed ChatGPT over time.
So it got smarter than ChatGPT.
And what's really exciting is that it suggests R1 has the potential to achieve even higher accuracy with more training.
Wow, so this is an AI that can keep getting better and better.
That's the promise of reinforcement learning.
I know we have some real AI nerds listening, so can you give us a little taste of the technical stuff behind DeepSeek's approach to reinforcement learning? What makes it so special?
Sure. So their method focuses on something called policy, which is essentially how the AI makes decisions.
Like a set of rules that guide the AI's actions.
Exactly. And DeepSeek uses complex mathematical equations to constantly tweak and refine this policy, making the AI's decisions more and more accurate over time.
Okay, now I'm starting to see why people are freaking out about this DeepSeek thing. But there's got to be a catch, right? This thing must be massive. It probably takes thousands of GPUs to run. You can't just fire this up on your laptop.
You're right about that. The original model is huge, but that's where the magic of model distillation comes in.
Model distillation sounds fancy.
It is pretty cool. Basically, DeepSeek first trained this giant model, and then they used it to teach a smaller, more manageable version.
Like taking all the knowledge of a genius and condensing it into a little handbook.
Precisely. This smaller model isn't as powerful as the original, but it's much more accessible to people who don't have a server farm at their disposal.
So they basically shrunk the AI down to a more manageable size without losing all the smarts.
And here's the really surprising part. DeepSeek found that these distilled models actually outperformed even larger models like GPT 3.5 in certain tasks.
So sometimes smaller is better?
It seems that way.
This is all incredibly exciting, but let's address the elephant in the room. This tech comes from a Chinese company, and the reactions have been, let's just say, mixed.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, excitement, skepticism, fear.
Some people are straight up suspicious of DeepSeek's claims, right? Like they think they're hiding something.
Right. They think maybe they have more GPUs up their sleeve than they're letting on.
Yeah.
Especially with those U.S. export controls on advanced chips to China.
It's a valid concern given the whole geopolitical situation.
For sure. But here's the thing. Several independent experts, including some who've tried to recreate DeepSeek's work, have validated their claims about the cost and efficiency.
So it seems like they're being pretty transparent, at least for now.
I'd say so.
Then there's the fear that this is like a sign of U.S. tech decline, that China's about to leave us in the dust when it comes to AI.
I understand that fear. But while China's AI capabilities are growing rapidly, we need to keep things in perspective. The U.S. still leads in many areas of AI research and development.
Plus, DeepSeek being open source actually benefits everyone, not just China.
That's a really important point. It could actually accelerate global AI innovation by giving everyone access to these cutting-edge techniques.
Okay, so maybe instead of seeing it as a threat, we should view it as an opportunity, a chance for researchers and developers worldwide to work together.
To build on this shared knowledge and really push the boundaries of AI, that's a very optimistic view.
Let's be optimistic for a minute.
Yep.
But let's also play devil's advocate. What if this cheaper, more accessible AI actually leads to a huge surge in demand for computing resources?
You're thinking about the Jevons paradox.
Exactly. The idea that as technology gets more efficient, we tend to use more of it. So even though each AI model might become more energy efficient, the overall demand for computing power could actually explode.
That's a very real possibility, and it could be a huge win for companies like NVIDIA.
The folks who make all those GPUs.
Exactly. They could be laughing all the way to the bank, even if AI development shifts towards open source models.
Okay, this is getting pretty complex. We've got open source battling it out with proprietary models, US-China tensions simmering in the background, and the potential for an AI arms race fueled by cheaper technology.
It's a lot to wrap our heads around.
So where do we go from here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. DeepSeek has thrown a wrench into the works. It's honestly hard to say what the future holds, but one thing's for sure, the AI landscape is about to get a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. We're going to need to take a closer look at the pros and cons of this whole open source surge, explore the potential for both collaboration and cutthroat competition, and dive into some contrasting viewpoints from industry leaders. But we'll save that for part 2 of our DeepSeek deep dive.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our DeepSeek Deep Dive, where we're wrestling with all the implications of this open source AI explosion. Last time we left off with a lot of questions about what happens next.
Yeah, like, is this the beginning of the end for companies like OpenAI, or is this just a blip on the radar?
It's a classic battle, right? Open source versus proprietary models. The ultimate showdown for the future of AI.
On one side, you've got the open source champion saying knowledge should be free. Everyone benefits from sharing and collaborating.
It's all about transparency and accelerating progress together.
But then you've got the companies that have poured billions into developing their own AI, arguing that proprietary models are what drive real innovation.
They're protective of their intellectual property. They say that open source actually stifles progress because it takes away the incentive to invest heavily in research and development.
It's a tough argument to counter. I mean, these companies have a point, right?
Right. They do.
Yeah.
But then DeepSeek comes along and throws a wrench in that whole line of thinking.
Yeah, they're basically saying, look, we built this amazing AI for a fraction of the cost.
And they're sharing it with the world.
So does this mean that open source is about to take over the AI world? Or will the big companies with their proprietary models still hold their ground?
It's honestly too early to say. It's like a tug of war right now. Both sides pulling with all their might.
But DeepSeek has definitely injected a much-needed dose of competition into the mix.
Absolutely. And that competition could force everyone to up their game, which ultimately benefits all of us.
And this brings us to the other big elephant in the room, China.
Ah, yes. DeepSeek's origins have definitely stirred up some anxieties.
Some people are worried that this is China's master plan to become the global leader in AI.
It's understandable, given the geopolitical tensions we're seeing,
Hmm?
but let's try to look at this objectively.
Okay, let's be rational for a second.
DeepSeek is an open source project. Anyone can use it regardless of where they're from.
So it's not like China has some exclusive access to this technology.
Exactly. In a way, it levels the playing field. It gives researchers and developers all over the world the chance to contribute to AI progress.
Maybe this could even be an opportunity for collaboration instead of competition. You know, researchers from different countries working together to advance the field.
Wouldn't that be something?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we can't ignore the reality of the situation.
Right. There's still that underlying tension between the U.S. and China.
And the U.S. export controls on advanced chips to China just add another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
It really makes you think about how intertwined technology and politics are.
It's impossible to separate them, especially when it comes to something as powerful as AI.
So how do we make sense of all this? What does it actually mean for the future of AI?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. DeepSeek has made it clear that the old rules don't necessarily apply anymore,
We can't just assume that the companies with the most money will always win.
or that innovation only happens in Silicon Valley.
It's a whole new ballgame.
Mm.
And within this new landscape, we have some really interesting perspectives emerging.
Like Chamath Palihapitiya, for instance.
The billionaire investor guy.
Right. He's been pretty vocal about his take on DeepSeek, and it's quite different from what you might expect.
In what way?
Well, he's basically saying that DeepSeek exposes a flaw in the thinking of a lot of big tech companies.
You mean all that money they've been pouring into AI?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's questioning whether all those massive investments were even necessary.
He's suggesting that they might have been overspending, while a more efficient, innovative approach like DeepSeek's might be the real key to success.
It's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, and it's got some people worried.
He even went so far as to say that DeepSeek could be a threat to the U.S. stock market?
Like, investors are going to start panicking and dumping their shares in companies that have spent billions on AI infrastructure that suddenly seems obsolete.
That's his prediction.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone agrees with him.
Right, like Gary Tan.
The venture capitalist, he's on the other side of the argument.
He's saying, hold on, the AI boom is just getting started, and we're going to need all those massive computing resources regardless of how efficient individual models become.
He believes that the demand for AI applications will just skyrocket. So even if each model uses less power, the overall demand for computing power will still explode.
So it's like a bet on the Jevons paradox playing out in the AI world.
Exactly. More efficiency just leads to more usage.
So we've got these two very different perspectives on what DeepSeek means for the market. Chamath warning of a potential crash. Gary Tan betting on continued growth. It's fascinating.
It really highlights the uncertainty that DeepSeek has injected into the whole AI landscape.
And this uncertainty isn't just limited to investors. We're seeing it within the AI community itself.
You mean how some of the big names in AI have reacted to DeepSeek?
Yeah, like Alexander Wang, the CEO of Scale AI.
He's a major player in the AI world, providing data and infrastructure for AI applications.
His initial reaction to DeepSeek was pretty interesting.
It was one of alarm, actually. He was quite concerned that DeepSeek might be downplaying their resources and that they might have far more GPUs than they're letting on.
He even went so far as to call DeepSeek a wake-up call for America.
He was urging the U.S. to ramp up its own AI innovation and tighten export controls to maintain its lead.
But then as more information came out and experts validated DeepSeek's claims, his perspective shifted.
It did. He actually acknowledged the transformative potential of open source AI and emphasized the need for the U.S. to adapt and embrace this new reality.
It's amazing how quickly things are evolving in this space and how hard it is to predict what the long-term consequences of something like DeepSeek will be.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we need to stay flexible and open-minded as we navigate this rapidly changing landscape.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values that guide its development and use.
Exactly. AI needs to be developed responsibly with safeguards in place to prevent misuse and unintended consequences.
And that brings us to the core of what we've been discussing. Is DeepSeek ultimately a good thing or a bad thing for the world?
It's a complex question. I think it has the potential to be both.
In what way?
It's a force for good because it democratizes access to powerful AI tools. It could lead to incredible breakthroughs and advancements that benefit everyone.
But it could also be dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands or if it's used for malicious purposes.
We need to be mindful of those risks and work to mitigate them.
So it's not just about the code itself. It's about the intentions behind it and the way it's used in the real world.
Exactly. We need to approach AI development with a sense of responsibility and a commitment to ethical principles.
So for our listeners out there, why should they care about this whole DeepSeek saga? How does this even affect their lives?
Because DeepSeek isn't just some isolated event. It's a microcosm of a much larger trend.
The rise of AI and its impact on everything.
Exactly. AI is already changing the world in profound ways, and DeepSeek is a powerful example of how rapidly this technology is evolving and how unpredictable the future is.
It's a story that's still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping the ending.
Will it be a story of collaboration and shared progress, or will it be a story of competition and conflict?
That's a question we all need to think about.
And we'll continue exploring it in the final part of our DeepSeek Deep Dive, where we'll zoom out even further and look at the big picture implications of this open source AI revolution.
Welcome back to the final part of our DeepSeek Deep Dive. It feels like we've gone down the rabbit hole and come out the other side.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground.
But it's all been building up to this, right? What does DeepSeek actually tell us about the future of AI?
I think DeepSeek is a really powerful symbol of how much the AI world is changing.
Like, it's not just about the tech itself.
Right. It's about who has access to it, who controls it, and how it's used.
Before DeepSeek, the story of AI was pretty much dominated by these big tech companies with tons of money and resources.
They were the gatekeepers. They decided what was possible.
But DeepSeek flipped the script.
It showed that you don't need billions of dollars to create cutting-edge AI.
You don't even need to be in Silicon Valley.
Exactly. And that's a really big deal because it opens up the possibility for a much more diverse and decentralized AI ecosystem.
So instead of having just a few companies controlling everything,
We could have a much wider range of players contributing to AI development.
researchers, startups, nonprofits, even individuals.
It's like the democratization of AI.
That sounds pretty amazing, but it also makes me a little nervous.
I understand that feeling.
I mean, what happens when really powerful AI tools become available to anyone?
It's a valid concern. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications of AI more than ever before.
Right. It's not just about the code itself. It's about the values that shape how it's used.
Exactly. We need to make sure that AI is developed responsibly with safeguards in place to prevent misuse.
So this isn't just a tech problem, it's a human problem.
It's a societal problem.
Yeah.
We all need to be part of the conversation about how to ensure that AI benefits humanity.
So back to the big question. Is DeepSeek a game changer, a threat, or something else entirely?
It's probably a little bit of all three. It's a game changer because it's shaken up the status quo. It's a potential threat because it raises concerns about access and misuse, but it's also an incredible opportunity.
An opportunity to create a new path for AI.
One that's more open, more collaborative, and ultimately more beneficial for everyone.
So for everyone listening out there, why should you care about this whole DeepSeek thing? How does it affect you?
Because AI is no longer just a futuristic concept. It's here. It's now. And it's impacting every aspect of our lives.
Whether you realize it or not.
DeepSeek is just one example of how rapidly this technology is evolving and how it's changing the rules of the game.
It's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that we need to pay attention and engage with this stuff.
Because the future of AI is being shaped right now, and we all have a say in what that future looks like.
So we've explored the tech, the implications, the hopes and the fears. Now we're left with the big question that we started with.
Will DeepSeek ultimately lead to a more collaborative and beneficial future for AI? Or will it spark an AI arms race that could have devastating consequences?
That's something we all need to think about and grapple with, and it's a conversation that we'll continue to have here on the Deep Dive.
We'll keep exploring these issues as they evolve and try to make sense of this rapidly changing world. So stay tuned and keep those brains engaged.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of DeepSeek. We hope you learned something and maybe even had your mind blown a little bit.
And remember, the future of AI is in our hands. Let's make it a good one.
That's a wrap on our DeepSeek R1 deep dive. Thanks for listening.